we lived in Richmond together for a while, for a few years, but you had moved to San Francisco with your now wife, and I had moved to Nashville actually. So it was like,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, I was there for 3 years just during the
Okay.
pandemic, pretty much.
Oh, really?
Um,
Okay.
And then it's interesting, within a month of one another, we both moved back to Richmond this year.
the pandemic, I think it really put priorities in place for what I was looking for out of my life. And it didn't necessarily line up with what I was thinking when I moved to Nashville. So it was more about getting back to friends and family and a place that feels like home.
I was kind of doing this dance between the East Coast and the West Coast when I met my now wife. We wound up in San Francisco essentially full time, yet I still had my sort of living situation and honestly my identity. I agree with you, Tyler. Still in Richmond. They're all really nice places I would love to visit, but I just can't fathom not living in Richmond, Virginia.
This time you guys talked a lot more. You had group therapy. Josiah Johnson is no longer with the group.
We've been a band for 12 years, so there
Mhm.
was quite a lot to unpack. Silver lining of this pandemic, which I call it a silver lining because there was plenty of things that were disruptive and detrimental to a lot of people during the pandemic. But at least on our end, one of the silver linings was having that space to kind of start peeling back the layers of issues that you don't really want to speak about when you're seeing each other constantly and not really having time to process things. So yeah, one way that we made use of our time off was really having like honest conversations.
I think a lot of the stuff that we were dealing with was based around the trauma of him leaving, and I think there was a lot of stuff that we didn't say to each other or didn't feel comfortable or even understand how to comment on that in the moment.
How was this album different for you guys?
I was kind of moving more and more towards different like ways of approaching songwriting, a perfect storm of like where I was heading and us not being able to get together all as a group and having this sort of isolated way of being creative. Let's say there's a song that started, it's John's voice and it's John's guitar or whatever. And then you would send that out like via email, essentially. I mean, not really, there's like software programs, but through computers. And someone else would get it. And I don't hear what they're doing until maybe a week or two later. And everyone at the same time is adding things. So we're kind of working in the dark to a band who's used to doing a lot in person. You're sort of reacting in real time to hearing someone's idea part that might trigger you like, oh, okay, maybe this could go here, yada, yada. You're all sort of cooks in a kitchen at the same time. This was like everyone's cooking individually without others seeing. And to some people that worked as a really strong benefit. Like there are some people who enjoy less pressure when they're creating. I personally enjoy the pressure cooker.
And I think all of our records are products of the environment that we're in. I think we're very much not necessarily like an autobiographical band, but we're very influenced by the things that are happening in our lives.